Welcome to the Growth Minded Accountant podcast, where our experts will share best practices on running your firm in the digital age. This podcast is brought to you by CountingWorks Pro. Let's get started.
Welcome to another edition of the Growth Minded Accountant, the show for tax and accounting professionals who are ready to break out from the traditional marketing mold, attract more clients, and grow their practice. This is probably Rebekah, who is joining me as usual today. I think maybe, unless we have an emergency podcast, our last podcast of the year. So I'm going to wish you happy holidays to everyone, all of our listeners, obviously, as well. My name is Lee Reams. I'm the founder and CEO of CountingWorks and TaxBuzz.com. And today we're exploring one of the most critical shifts happening in the digital landscape. And it's the era of search everywhere optimization. So if you're big into marketing, you may have seen that term used by some influencers, search engine copy writers and experts have been using it for a while. So, one of the things I've been saying for years and years and years is it takes much more than a website to get found online. So today we're going to talk about all the different things, what's changed in the digital landscape. We're going to talk about how you as a tax and accounting firm and brand should embrace this and what the opportunities are ahead for you. So you got to start realizing people are not just using Google anymore, right? They're on social media platforms. You have AI-driven search. You have Gemini now in the Google search results. You obviously have ChatGPT search. There's a lot of new ways. TikTok, obviously, for certain generations is their main source of information. So guess what? If you're not there, you're not where your clients are. You're not there to establish your thought leadership on different subjects. So this isn't just about ranking high on one platform, which is the traditional SEO, right? Search engine optimization. So it's about building a cohesive digital presence everywhere your clients are looking. So Rebekah, if you could say hello, I'm gonna call you my forward-thinking marketing strategist today. So if you could jump in and say hello and we'll get started.
Yeah, this is a fun one. I'm excited. I love this topic. I talk about it a lot. So hopefully we can get into some good stuff today.
So if you are not using a AI assistant to summarize what we're talking about and you want to grab a notepad, that would be a good time. There are going to be a few significant takeaways, I think, from this one. So definitely pay attention. So Rebekah, let's start by just kind of saying what is search everywhere optimization?
Yep. So search everywhere optimization basically refers to the modern SEO. I like to say that I relearn my job about 3 times a year with algorithm updates and different things like that. This is the latest iteration, right? Everybody and their brother has a website. So Google no longer really cares about your website to an extent. That is not to say that your site isn't important, but you need to be everywhere. You need a web footprint. You need social media. You need to be posting on other news sites, TaxBuzz, Newsbreak, Medium, Flipboard, all these different places where your name comes up, where you have backlinks, where people are talking about you. Basically, anywhere you're mentioned online is coming together to help search algorithms across the web. So on social, on traditional search engines, on algorithms like those on Newsbreak, like those on TaxBuzz. Those are all important these days because, like you said, Lee, people are no longer just searching on search engines. So search everywhere basically means you are featured around the web and you have high authority web-wide.
Yeah, so let's bring this into then your website. So Google obviously is still the number one search engine, dominates a monopoly, people would say. But all these signals now of all these outside platforms that you're talking about are signals to Google that your brand should rank higher. So there is kind of a second win there. But now there's all this search that's taking place outside of the Google ecosystem. And that's where we mean search everywhere optimization is so important. So if certain generations, so for example, I'm going to do a couple stats. 64% of Gen Z in the US use TikTok, at least for now until January 19th. My daughter swears, Dad, there's no way they're taking down TikTok. And I'm like, well, there's a chance if it's a security threat to the entire United States and they're gathering and they know everything you're doing and everything where you go, and then perhaps where I am as well. And I know Trump has said he probably will not, but we'll see what happens. But the point is, if that much of that generation is using TikTok as their search engine, get that. They're not using Google, right? 67% use Instagram for search, surpassing Google in this age group. Over 30s, older generations primarily still use Google, right? But they're also using tools like YouTube, and people are watching videos. So, what's happening? One is social media is disrupting search. And then the second thing is you're seeing the rise of what I'll call AI-powered search, which is search ChatGPT, and then you see Gemini now in the actual search results. And then everyone, Meta has their AI. You've got Grok and X. You got all these different tools. So there's a big evolution that's happening right now. So my next question is, okay, Rebekah, I'm a tax and accounting firm. I'm writing about financial related things. So, we know Google puts extra kind of rules or requirements on how they decide you are credible to rank you. Do you see any of that going on these other environments, or is it the Wild West at this point? And what does this mean for content creators, when you're starting to push content out to these other platforms?
So it's easier on other platforms. TikTok in particular, much easier to reach a wide audience because they don't have the same regulations that Google has surrounding, we call it YMYL, your money, your life, anything that's finance related, health related, all those sorts of things that could affect your personal or mental well-being, right? Are heavily policed on Google with only the highest authority websites ranking really well. Other places still do this to a certain extent. Social media, though, especially TikTok, like I said, you're going to have a much easier chance to get seen because a lot of these other algorithms are interest-based more than authority-based. So while you will see like the Forbeses of the world, the Mrs. Dow Joneses of the world ranking really well because they have high follower counts, they have high authority, you too can make a viral reel or a viral TikTok simply by addressing something that no one else has addressed. And it's going to get pushed to people who are interested in taxes, in personal finance, in accounting, small business, whatever the topic is. You can reach people based on interest more than on your own authority.
So one of the big challenges that we just had, I'm not going to mention the name, but a big brand in the tax space, they are an influencer. They're actually a kind of a Wall Street CNBC type person that is pushing a tax brand, and they're out basically giving tax advice that is just flat out wrong. And that is kind of the Wild West of my point on social media. So I think it's really important that those are credible, that those aren't snake oil salespeople, to start putting these people in their place, basically. So when you see content that is pushing, let's say, a tax planning strategy, there's one going around on solar right now, you gotta be involved. I think you have to establish your credibility. You don't want a bunch of clients coming into your office either going, well, I heard on such and such that I could do this. Why aren't you saying we could do this? While you're spending a half an hour telling them why that's against the law. So there's a lot of different ways now to be out there and engaging with some of this content and actually establish your own self as kind of a trusted influencer brand by kind of engaging and calling them out for their what I would call their misdeeds or mislabeled or poor information. I don't know. What do you think about that, Rebekah?
I love it. If you see a viral post, that's wrong. Or even just a post that's gaining a little bit of traction, that's wrong. One of the best things you can do is post a rebuttal. You can even do like a stitch or something like that where you show it and then you say, but wait, no, this is very, very wrong. That's great because then you're also gaining traction from that viral video or that popular video, even if it's not completely viral. And you can kind of establish yourself as the real authority, even if you're not as well known. And social is a great place to do this because, like I said, social pushes out to people who have interest in certain areas more than based on your authority as a creator, which is how some of these things go crazy in the first place. So if you're jumping off of the popularity of a viral video, but posting a rebuttal to it, you have a really good chance to get viewership because it's going to go out to people who have already engaged with the original video that's been gaining a lot of traction. So it's a super good way to, one, establish yourself, and two, to actually provide people with the right information, right? On social, one of the things you want to think about is, am I providing value? If you can post true information that's counteracting incorrect information, you're automatically providing value. And it's a good way to up your follower count as well as kind of ingratiate yourself to the algorithms a little bit.
Well, this is great, Rebekah, but I want business. I don't care about being an influencer and how many followers I have. So what is, this search everywhere? How does this actually drive business to me? How does this make me more successful? It feels like I'm kind of wasting my time. In some respects, I'm getting in little troll wars with people on social, but kind of, how would you answer that question?
That trust matters and that people are on social. So it doesn't really matter if you want a big follower account. You don't need a big follower account. You do need to be on social media and you need to be posting trustworthy content. Because if someone finds you even on Google, probably the first thing they're going to do then is find your Instagram, find your Facebook, find your TikTok. If they see that you've been posting information that resonates with them and that is really valuable, they're going to trust you to do their taxes. They're going to trust you to do their bookkeeping. They're going to trust your advisory services. Because if they see value online, how much more value can you provide them in person when they sit down face to face with you? So even if you don't care about those things, they're still important in this day and age.
All right. So we're going to come back to the type of content and we're going to talk about social proof reviews and some other things. But now we've been talking about, we've said a few names. We've said TikTok, we've said Instagram, but what are the platforms beyond Google that tax and accounting pros should prioritize first when they're trying to diversify their online presence? So we're trying to now do that search everywhere optimization. So should I go after just a few channels, YouTube? What is your recommendation there? Is it depending on who my target audience is? What are their demographics? Could you expand that a little bit?
Yeah, you took the words right out of my mouth. First, you're going to need to know.
Sorry.
It's okay. I also noticed my headband keeps disappearing. So my head
it looks great.
It's going in and out here,
good.
guys. I'm sorry. But it really does depend on your target audience. So that's the most important thing. It's also important to not bite off more than you can chew. I know this can be overwhelming. There's a lot of things out there online these days. So if you're all of a sudden like, I'm going to join every social media network, I'm going to start posting videos everywhere, they all need to be different, you're going to get burnt out really, really fast. So if you've never done this before, I highly recommend looking at where your target audience is. So let's just say I'm a millennial, so I know what we do. So if you want to target millennials who are, we're getting into an age where we need tax planning. A lot of us are buying businesses. A lot of us have small children. We're planning for college for them. There's a lot going on kind of in millennial lives right now. So if you want to target that age group, we're on social. Like I use Instagram to search everything. More than Google. So if you want to target that age bracket, you're probably going to want to be on LinkedIn. You're probably going to want to be on Instagram. And those would be a good 2 places to start if you want to target millennials. If you want to target people who are retirees, you're probably going to want to focus more on maybe YouTube and the blog on your website and getting Google reviews because they're still using Google, but they are using YouTube as well to watch longer form videos. So pick 1 or 2 places where your target audience is. And from there, if it goes well and you get a real handle on it, then expand to other platforms once you feel comfortable and confident with what you're doing.
You just really aged me. I'm a huge YouTube. I actually went premium on YouTube. I watch it so much. I've learned so much. I know how to green the desert. I know every cultural battle and insights on countries you never heard of and travel. So I got it all, but I guess I'm not quite at the retirement age, but you're putting me there. All right. So let's talk social, since a lot of what we're talking about on the everywhere on the search is on social and TikTok, Instagram, everything else. So I feel, as you said, it's kind of overwhelming. How am I going to create content around this? But we do have a tool called Max, which is our AI assistant. And we're even doing audio, text to audio. We're doing deep dive, 2-person conversations about blog articles already. So we're taking we're pushing the envelope on what you can build through AI to get you really close to an end product. But the problem I have with that is it's lacking personalization then. It doesn't feel as authentic. So if you completely rely on AI, I think you're missing the boat. I believe, though, you can use AI and your own personality and the way you write prompts and the memories you've created in your AI tool like Max to really get some really targeted, authentic kind of a messaging. But explain, if you could, because we're going to get into how to create the right content. So I know you and I are all in on AI. We've created Max, our tool that's built on the tax code. It is highly accurate. It can build anything you want, any post about personal finance, retirement, estate planning, accounting, small business issues, you name it. But how do you now utilize a tool like AI to be authentic still and personalize it? How do you get the prompts to be written in a certain way to do that? And then secondarily, let's then get into what is the right content to create for this search everywhere world.
For sure. So when you're writing prompts, the first thing you want to do is remember that it's going to get to know you, right? These are machine learning models. They're going to get to know you more as you do things. Talk to them like you would talk to an assistant. If you had a social media assistant in your office, what would you say to them when you wanted to explain the type of content you wanted? Tell Max or whatever AI program you're using the exact same thing. Another thing that I have found to be really helpful, and I know you have too, Lee, is to tell the AI to write things in the style of a particular writer. I often use myself because I've been writing online for a really long time, so it can find my articles and kind of get to know the style that I write in. So I'll tell it, I'll be like, write in the style of Rebekah Barton, that's me, and kind of tell it how I want it to write. But if there are other people who you love, let's say you want to write something that's a little more comedic and lighthearted, and you're a big Dave Barry fan, you could tell it to write in the style of him. There are other copywriters out there who write for places like Forbes, the Wall Street Journal. If you have a particular writer you love, tell it to write in that style and to remember that for future articles. That's a really good way to start honing in on a style. Another thing you should do is tell it the keywords that you want to use. I'm maybe jumping ahead a little. My SEO in the realm of keywords does exist on social as well. You still want to be using the keywords that are going to resonate and that people are going to be searching. So if, for example, you're doing TikTok and you want to come up when people search, Gen Z tax consultant, you're going to want to use key terms that are related to that so that you are coming up in your caption, in your hashtags, all those types of things. So you can include that in your prompt as well. Make sure you use keywords that will relate to X long tail search term. And that can be a really good way to kind of start getting the outputs you want. And don't be afraid. That's my third piece of advice. Don't get discouraged. Don't be afraid. Dive into AI, play around with it. The more detail you give it in the prompts, the better your outputs are going to be. And I think the more you're going to start to see how it can be a really helpful tool to build out the base of all of this content for you so that you're not so overwhelmed and don't feel like there's no way that you can actually handle it, because you can.
All right, so let's give an example and let's go through kind of a workflow here. So I'm a CPA firm. I'm in the Bay Area, or Utah has a big tech side now, and I want to focus on tech entrepreneurs. I want to do found guide to perhaps brainstorm for me to create a calendar of, let's say, 3 months worth of posts, the frequency, the topics I should be talking about, and the creation of, whatever the scripting looks like. How would you go through that with a tool like Max?
So the first thing, you're going to kind of want to break it into chunks. The first thing I would do is give it some background. Hey, I own a tax and accounting firm. We want to focus on working with tech firms in Salt Lake City. I'm going to have you help me build out a social media calendar. Put that in. Give it a base for what you're doing. Then it'll say something like, okay, thanks, I'd love to help with that, blah, blah, blah. After that, say something like, let's put together 3 months worth of Facebook posts that focus on, and give it a few topics that focus on, tech tax deductions, how you can save money on labor in the tech industry, and maybe pick something else. And then from there, tell it something like, please also include image suggestions. And I would like to post 3 times a week. Pop that in. It's going to spit out a basic calendar for you. From there, if you're not happy with the level of detail, you can take individual posts and say something like, this is great. Please expound on this. Or, hey, I love this topic. Can you also turn it into a blog post that I can post around the same time? Things like that. So you're just going to want to break it into manageable pieces, bite-sized little pieces. And then another great idea is to actually copy everything over to like a Word document or something that you can work off of. You can make your own notes. You can cross things off as you post them. So kind of find your own workflow that's going to work for you once the AI does the heavy lifting.
A Word document? That's very anti-millennial of you. I thought it would have been Google Docs.
It is. Google Docs is what I should have said. I was sitting here looking at G-Docs and I said Word.
That's fine. We understand where you're going with this. All right. So that gives me a good starting point on creating content for this search everywhere optimization. When you mention keywords, Am I just putting keywords and hashtags in my descriptions when I post, or am I actually verbalizing? Is what I'm saying in these messages, is that part of the signals to TikTok search engine, for example, how they're going to rank you and how you go viral or not?
It is now. It's important. Audio is very important. And as these algorithms are shifting, audio is becoming increasingly important, as are the captions on the video. I highly recommend using the caption feature when you post a video, because one, it allows people to see what you're saying if they're on silent. Let's say they're on an airplane and they're watching TikTok. They're not going to be able to have the sound all the way up necessarily, or they're walking down the street or commuting, whatever it is. Riding a train, they're not going to necessarily be able to have the volume all the way up or want the volume all the way up. So captions can be a really great way to grab attention and still provide value to people, even if they're not hearing what you're saying. Secondarily, these algorithms are understanding the audio that's being said in different videos. So I do recommend saying the keywords. Don't make it sound unnatural, right? But use certain key terms that you've used in your caption and that you know you want to rank for. It's all about connections, right? SEO is all about connections. And so you want to make that connection between what you're saying in the video and what you're saying in the caption, and maybe repeat those very important keywords so that you're going to have a better chance of ranking, and so that you're really driving home whatever point it is you're trying to make.
So same concept when you're writing a blog article, SEO 101, you don't stuff a bunch of keywords of a topic that isn't in the blog article. So it's the same concept. Just make sure you're consistent going through it. And it's working on that side as well. We've been pushing the envelope. Again, I talked about our deep dive audio blogging. We are adding more features there for social. We're exploring the reels, creating reels through our Max product. Probably be 3-6 months away, but I think that's where the direction is going, to make it really easy for tax accounting firms to create this type of content. So let's pivot a little bit. I've kind of got an idea of how to create content. The averaging reviews and social proof, and it is like the number one thing we do for clients when they onboard with us. We get a client database loaded. The first thing we want to do, actually, after getting the newsletter out and giving some value to client, is identifying your clients who are your ambassadors, the people that are talking about you, the people that are referring to you, and getting either a case study written about you, about them and their experience, and getting real quotes, or getting a testimonial campaign out. We go for your Google business profile first, because obviously Google owns it. They rank it very high. We also go to TaxBuzz, since that is in our ecosystem. But if we get TaxBuzz and Google with a ton of 5-star reviews, this is that search everywhere optimization. So meaning you have this great website, but you're ignoring social proof. You're ignoring these review sites. Those are signals. Those are where people are going to find, they're making buying decisions based on going to Yelp, right? Or what they see on social media. So these are really important. So kind of give an idea, the advice, maybe a little success stories. We have firms with well over 100 5-star reviews. They consistently rank number one in their markets because of this. It's the easiest no-brainer ever. But how can firms do this?
So there are a lot of different ways. One of the biggest things that I hear from people is no one's leaving me a review. I'm sending out these emails requesting reviews and no one's doing it. So there are a couple ways to combat that. One of them is to make sure that you're sending an email after every single positive engagement with a client, right? So don't wait 3 months and then send it out as a batch email. If you have a really solid onboard, or you have a really productive meeting with someone, send them a one-on-one email. You can have AI write it. You can use one of our campaigns and just send it as a one-off. But that's a really great way to get someone while your experience with them, their experience with you, is top of mind. And people are more likely to leave reviews if something's fresh in their mind. I know that, like, if I go to a restaurant or something, I'm way more likely to leave a positive review immediately after I leave, like when I get back to my car, than I am 3 months later if they send it. So I think that's key, is getting people while they're thinking about that positive interaction. Another thing you can do is, like, if you're wanting to get reviews, for example, on social media, I know we were talking about Google, but if you want reviews on your Facebook profile, for example, you can do something like post that everyone who shares a particular post and leaves you a review is going to be entered into a drawing to win a Starbucks gift card, something of that nature, to kind of entice people, encourage them, just to share the post, leave the review. So that's a really good way as well. I think those are probably the biggest two things. And then I guess the third one would be just don't stop, right? Like if you've set a review campaign and people are not leaving reviews, try again in 3 months, 6 months, and see if you get people at a better time. Change the wording of the campaign, try a different campaign. We have a bunch of different options. So you need to find what resonates with your particular audience as well.
Let's talk about case studies real quick.
Yep.
So the way I handle case studies is an outreach to your clients who you're friendly with, and you're saying, hey, I want to do a spotlight case study on you. Would you be willing to answer a few open-ended questions? And then you can use a tool like Max to then create the actual case study using their inputs. And you can give it some prompts and say, hey, I'm creating a case study about this client. Please take the following inputs to write a storytelling narrative style case study on how we've affected their success in finances, small business, whatever it is. It's really easy to do. And then the win-win is let them have a case study on your website, and now you're linking to their website. Guess what? That is a signal to Google that, hey, this brand has an inbound link. So that's a way for them to get an inbound link. So I think it's kind of a no-brainer, but an actual value add on the case study side. All right, so I think we've covered that fairly well. Let's talk about AI-driven search and kind of explain what that means now in the search results when you're you're using Google, but Google now is putting Gemini's response up at the top, and they're pushing organic even farther down. What does that mean?
So you still need to be unique. That's always been important. Having unique content just for you has always been critical when it comes to search, because the internet is filled with articles about similar topics, right? So to stand out, you've always needed to have a unique approach. Same thing applies here. You're going to need to write things that are different, that are targeting your niche audience, that people are going to want to read. You're going to want to write things that are not necessarily part of an aggregated AI response, because they're not the general topic that everyone's talking about. So come at things from a different angle. Don't be afraid to publish those rebuttals. Like, actually, this isn't the best way to handle this situation. You should do this instead. Little known listicles can be great. Things like the top 10 little known deductions for real estate investors, or things like that are going to really set you apart. They're going to have an eye-catching headline that people are going to be like, wait, I want to know that. I work in real estate and I have no idea what I'm supposed to be deducting. And then from there, again, as you're providing this value, people are more likely to reach out to you and to actually become a paying client when you're putting valuable, unique content that only you can do online. And whether or not you're using AI to start developing it, you need to have that unique flavor or those unique topics that are just niche to your firm and things that you can put your own personal experience and expertise behind to back up everything you're saying.
All right, so we've gone through a lot of what these other everywhere, I guess, places to be are. But what do you say to someone who I just put up a website and why am I not getting any leads?
I tell them that it's because your website doesn't really matter. Just to be honest, it does, but it doesn't. What matters the most is your web footprint. So I can't believe this hasn't come up yet, but if you've talked to me at all since July, you've probably heard me reference the July algorithm leak. Google's algorithm leaked in July. People in my industry learned a ton of information. And one of the biggest things we learned is that Google is prioritizing your web authority over almost everything else right now. So that means that while things like having proper schema, having alt text, having high quality content on your website does matter, it doesn't matter as much as your total web footprint and how much people trust you around the web. So really, that's what I tell people. It might sound frustrating if you think that having a website is enough. It just isn't in this day and age. People are everywhere online. People are turning to other places for search. The more you get your name out there in a high quality way, the better off you're going to be, because all of those platforms are working together and they're all going to come together to give you more leads, more clients, higher quality clients if you're posting valuable content. And it's what you have to do. Unfortunately, there's no two ways about it right now. You've got to be online and you've got to be on multiple platforms.
All right, that sounds like common sense to me. But the reality is there's still quote unquote search engine optimization consultants out there that will sit there and go, well, the schema on this particular article was not set up right. There's a broken link out of one of your 300 blog articles. It doesn't matter. That's like if you're the most competitive space in the world and there's 5 of you that are experts and are thought leaders everywhere. Yeah, is that a tiny, minute part of it? No. The reality is what Rebekah is saying is the truth now. And it's the thought leadership. It's your perception in the algorithms as being an authority on a subject that's going to make you rank better. Hey, the reality is you're still getting 65% or so of your clients from referrals. So I'm going to throw it in and kind of wrap this around why referrals and search everywhere matters as well. So think about it. A referral source no longer just says, hey, use Rebekah. Oh, okay. Where's Rebekah's number? Here it is. Call them. No, they're going to Google Rebekah. And what they're going to do is, what do they see in those search results? Or they're going to go on TikTok and look for Rebekah's brand. And if they don't see a presence, or if they see negative reviews, for example, because you have not used the search everywhere optimization, that is when your referral pipelines start breaking down. And that's how the modern day referral has changed as well. So kind of explain a little bit of how that mentality and psychology goes from even your referral velocity, I could say.
Yeah. So again, it just goes back to what we were saying earlier about how this is holistic, right? Your web presence matters and your reviews matter, and it all plays together into search everywhere optimization. So referrals are going to Google you, or they're going to TikTok you, or Instagram you, or look for you wherever you are. So if someone is sitting around the coffee shop with their friend and they're like, hey, you should really check out my tax guy, that person's probably going to pull out their phone, pull up an app, and look for you. So the more places you are, the more likely you are to actually get those referrals to become actual prospects who then become actual clients. It's really a no-brainer at this point. If you have nothing more than a website, people aren't going to trust you. They want to see that you're posting content other places. They want that personality. They want to see who you are and who they're going to be working with, because they're trusting you with, really their finances are an intimate part of their life. So the more trust you can build up before they ever send you an email or give you a phone call, the better off you are. And a really good way to do that is to be on multiple platforms where people are, so that you're kind of meeting people where they are, right? That's an important part of being a service provider, is meeting people where they are. And today, people are not just on Google.
And I think the biggest takeaway from that as well is this is all so everything we're talking about right now is evergreen. This isn't paid search. You're not blowing a bunch of money on advertising. You can do all this organically. And when we talk about evergreen content, you're creating an evergreen footprint. It builds upon itself. It becomes more defensible. It's almost like a moat against competitors. It's good if you, let's say, have a niche and you've built all this content around it and you own it, it's going to be much more difficult for someone new to come in and knock you off the top. And it pays year after year after year. So content that you may have created 2 years ago could be providing leads and actually grow in credibility, quite honestly, over time. So huge opportunity. So again, I hope you guys have kind of grasp this. We hear it every once in a while with clients who, that come to us that are frustrated, or they hired an SEO expert. And, half the time you're battling, honestly, to just say, it's not that hard, guys. Do these things. Do what we're telling you to do. It works. You don't need to worry. You don't need to be a tech and go in there to your schema and look at everything. It's helpful. It's bonus on top of it. But very rarely in our market do we see accounting firms that are battling, really well-funded SEO experts, right? So I want to thank you again. Again, happy holidays. Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Growth Minded Accountant. I hope this has been valuable to you and for giving you a clear picture of why traditional SEO is just one piece of the puzzle and how embracing search everywhere optimization can propel your practice forward. So until next time, keep growing, keep innovating. I'm going to come up with something better, and we'll see what's on the next episode. I think the next one, and again, unless we have an emergency or we have a new feature coming out that we might have a special podcast, but for the holidays, I think we're going to wait until 2025. So everyone enjoy the holidays, stay safe, and we'll talk to you soon.